What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Equestrian Physio on Air. I'm your host, Katie. I'm a Canadian physiotherapist and strength coach, and I have extensive experience in riding and training in the equestrian industry, and I have a particular focus on empowering equestrians to train and treat themselves like athletes. So, after last week going a little bit into a heavier topic, bringing a lot more data, a lot more thought-provoking kind of analysis to our conversation, today I thought I would go a little bit not softer, that's not the right word, but just like a little bit more away from the hard facts and more towards principles and values. And that's exactly what I want to talk about is kind of the core values of the equestrian physio as well as the mission and the system of training that I've developed and specifically why I've developed it. Now, I've been mulling this over for a while, primarily because we're coming up onto the next open doors for the Equestrian Physio training app. And as I've been kind of gearing up for that, I've been thinking about, marketing and messaging and a lot of that kind of stuff. And, me being me, I just vomited it into like a 7-page document to really outline, what it's for, why it's there, what are all the pieces of it, and how do those work together. And then from that, really got down to nitty gritty and pulled out kind of just some core values and ideas around what I'm doing. And there's a reason for that, because as any entrepreneur will tell you, we're not in it for simply the exchange of goods and services. Like, if that was the way it worked, no one would actually start a business and keep going with it because it's not something that you're like getting this equal exchange of value for the time that you're putting in. No, it is very much a passion project for anyone who decides to start a business, for anyone who has an idea to kind of help an industry or help a population of individuals and thinks, I'm going to put my heart and soul into building that out. And when I started this, I mean, realistically, it never started as a business. It started as an idea in physio school or even just an awareness of recognizing how different other sports treated themselves and like the athletes in the sports treated themselves as athletes, what they put into their own training, what their mentality looked like, what their rehab and their commitment to their sport and their own health and their own longevity in that sport look like. And kind of having this like reconciliation moment where I recognized how much that was missing in the equestrian industry. I recognized how much that had been missed in my own development as a young athlete, as an equestrian. And I really saw this massive hole where I'm like, okay, I have knowledge and experience and I have this drive. I think I can do something to change that. And that's really been the driving force behind all of it is recognizing this gap and trying to build something. Trying to build systems, trying to build services, trying to build projects, awareness, education to help fill that gap. And that is why we do it. Like any entrepreneur, again, that is trying to like fill a service or fill a need will tell you this. It is not the business itself that keeps them going. It is this passion to serve some population, to serve some need, to change something. And so as again, I was kind of gearing up for this next open doors and the messaging that I wanted to start reflecting on to put out there, I came up with these core values, these ideas. And so that is what I really wanted to talk about today is why we do it, like why I think the industry itself needs it, why I do it, and what these core values are, and how I am trying to embody them in what I put out into this world. So a little bit of softer stuff here. If it's not your cup of tea, feel free to skip this one. With the next episode, I'm thinking I'm going to do resistance training in youth athletes. So if you're going more for like the heavy hitting data, evidence-based stuff, then you can skip ahead. But if you are interested in what actually drives this mission, feel free to listen along. Anyway, without further ado, let's roll the tape. Hey, I'm Katie. I'm a physiotherapist, strength and conditioning coach, and lifelong rider dedicated to helping equestrians build strong, capable, resilient bodies, both in and out of the saddle. This podcast is here to empower riders of all levels with evidence-informed rehab, training, and education. And we're not just here to follow tradition for tradition's sake. We're here to challenge outdated norms and bring critical thinking and curiosity to how we train, ride, and show up. Let's get into it. So when I was back in physio school, we did this 1 week kind of entrepreneurship unit. It was basically like, if you took very, very bare bones of what a physiotherapy business owner should know a little bit about, like some legal stuff and some accounting stuff and some practical stuff. They shoved that all into a single week. And then on top of that, added a lot of roundtable discussions and talks from established professionals in the industry. And one of the culminating pieces of that unit was that we had to write out this like mini business plan. And that is actually where I kind of started this whole idea of having my services, having the free educational content that I provide through the newsletter, through social media, through the blog, having these kind of tiers of services, and then the training app, the training system that I offer, having like these different levels where equestrians could seek out this information, could seek out support and help at varying levels of investment and varying levels of commitment as well. So, the lowest tier of that being just the free education that I provide. This podcast, for one, the content I put out on social media and the education that I try to provide there. My newsletters, where I'll often take similar themes and threads that were going on through these other mediums and expand on them and like build them out a little bit more, either through evidence or providing more resources or just expanding on the conversation around the topic itself. And blogs. I haven't been doing as many blogs recently, just mostly time. But it is something that, again, I want to get back to create more in-depth, detailed analysis for all of these things. And that has always been, my mission is just I want to provide all of this stuff to you guys. I want to provide all the education, all the tools, everything available to you. And then kind of the next available, tier way that you can work with me up from that is the training system, is the training app. And that's where all of this information, all of this data, all of these concepts are taken and distilled down into a system that you can follow, into actual workouts, an actual program that spans over 12 months, a community that is there to support you, sequences and messaging and prompts that are helpful to reflect with the behavior change and the habit building piece of it. And then the actual workouts and programs themselves that are based in scientific evidence in the way that they are mapped out, the way that they are structured, and the way that they're biased towards the needs of different equestrians. And then beyond that, if you need it like very customized, you can work with me one-to-one, either on like rehab needs, performance needs, or, like most equestrians out there, a mix of both. We all have ailments and issues that we're dealing with on the rehab side of things, and then we all have performance things that we are trying to improve on top of that. And so it's all the same systems, it's all the same concepts, it's all the same base principles, just applied custom to an individual. And my goal is to keep expanding all of these different offerings, to have lots of different tiers, lots of different options, lots of different ways in which people can seek out this information and make it accessible to themselves and what they have capacity for in that moment. So in particular, coming up is the next open door enrollment for the training app, the training system that I first launched. It will be a full year ago now to a bunch of beta testers. And then I've run the first full enrollments over the course of this year. And then this will be the fourth, full sort of open doors. And really, one of the big things that I've come back to is that, we have easy access with the internet to workouts. Like, it is so easy to go on YouTube and find a million different workouts that you can follow along: Pilates, yoga, strength training, whatever the hell the Bosu ball or like resistance band or weird things that you see on there are. Access to structured workouts is not the issue here. What is the issue is, there's a few layers to it. Number one is equestrians actually being able to tell good quality programming from bad, because Instagram, social media, YouTube, like these platforms are littered with lots of people out there who are just going for likes, who are just going for views, who are just going for engagement, and will do some crazy looking shit to make that happen. And just because something looks complicated or unique, or someone says that it is, quote unquote, equestrian specific, doesn't mean that it is actually founded in good quality evidence. So that's number one, is just being able to identify and weed out the good from the bad, the grifters from those who are actually evidence-based and those who are actually there to support you. Number two is being able to take a collection of workouts and formulate them into something that actually makes sense as a program. Because what we know about how human beings, biological beings in general, adapt is that you need a process called progressive overload to actually see change. And that means that it's not just random sporadic exercises that you sprinkle in whenever you feel like it. It is a structured progression of consistent effort where the weight or the resistance or the intensity that you are doing is consistently building so that you are constantly overloading your body's capacity, your tissue's capacity, just a little bit. Not so far that we're overloading into injury, but just pushing a little bit beyond what it's capable of every single time. And then as it gets stronger, as it adapts, you push that little bit more. So that is the second piece, is that structure and that program that actually is going to create progression and create gains far beyond just random workouts that get your heart rate up and get you sweaty. The third big piece that I see missing in the way that I find equestrians kind of seek out fitness help is the actual habit building piece of it, the behavior change piece of it. Because let's face it, riders actually training in a gym is still a pretty novel concept for a lot of people. Like, we're starting to see it more in the elite levels. We're starting to see more professionals, posting themselves doing workouts, showing themselves in the gym. I'm going to say it's still probably 50-50 whether what you see is actually like good quality training and programming or whether it is just some of that like crazy Bosu ball bullshit that isn't actually probably moving the needle for everyone but looks cool on Instagram. So we're starting to see it, but it's still like, if you go to your grassroots, if you go to your local pony club of, anywhere between like 8-year-olds to 18-year-olds, I'm going to bet that 90% of them have never stepped foot in a gym or have never understood or been taken through a full good quality workout. They've been never shown how to squat. They haven't been shown how to set up and load a barbell. And that is a big piece that kind of perpetuates the industry where, one, it's just not normalized, and two, that means that it's not a ingrained habit the same way that we know how to put on a set of polos, we know how to clean our tack, we know how to braid, we know how to cool our horse down properly. These are skills that you learn as young equestrians, but we don't learn how to squat. We don't learn how to structure a workout. We don't know how to apply principles of progressive overload and resistance training to ourselves. We don't learn that basics. And that means when we introduce it, when we say, okay, look, we need to start training, that is a new habit for a lot of people. And it is hard because it's uncomfortable. There is resistance. So behavior change and habit building is a really big piece. And that's why, the odd time you'll get the inspiration to do some YouTube workout, you have to go through all of the activation energy of, pulling up YouTube, scrolling through different workouts, finding the one that you want to do, putting it up on the TV, getting out your yoga mat, setting it all up. Like, there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of effort. You go through it and then you hurt for 3 days because you only work out once a month. So you take that time off, you lose momentum, and then you just don't do it again until like maybe the inspiration hits the next month. So that brings me back to this kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it a manifesto, but I basically just word vomited a bunch of shit on a page to figure out what I wanted my system to actually mean, what the pieces are, why they're there, and then distill that into these 7 core values. And core values might not even be the right word, but it's kind of the way that I'm approaching it. And we're going to run through them one by one, but these are basically the things in which I have based the building of this training system off of. When I think about why I built it, what I want it to do, how I actually want it to integrate into the users and the riders that are taking advantage of it and the industry as a whole, this is what I want. So number 1, and we'll dive into these a little bit more, is empowerment through education. Number 2 is the athlete or the athletic identity. Number 3 is commitment that actually respects capacity. Number 4 is autonomy with structure. Number 5 is just evidence-informed everything, as much as we can. Number 6 is lifelong development. And number 7 is paying it forward. And if you've ever been on my website, the main banner that pops up when you go to the homepage is my mission. And that is empowering equestrians of all levels and disciplines with evidence-informed rehab, strength and conditioning, care, and education. So that is the mission of the entire company. But then this training system, I wanted to break it down further. So number 1, empowerment through education, right? My goal isn't just to tell people what to do. We're not spoon feeding you workouts. The big piece that I wanted to bring into this is showing you why it actually matters. Because And I mean, this is for me personally, but I believe it stands for everyone else. When we have knowledge, when we have understanding, that builds confidence because we can say, I am doing this for this reason. I know this matters because of this. It builds autonomy because you have this base understanding of why you're doing something so that if you need to make an informed decision, say, you have a structured 1 hour workout and you have to somehow cut that down to 30 minutes, you know what to cut because you know why you're doing it. And so you know the things that you need more and the things that you need less. And then long-term results, because even if this program isn't the right fit for you, you have an understanding of these principles. You can go forward and say, okay, this is actually real data. This is really good. This is just some grifter trying to sell me something stupid. And we can use that information to empower us long term. Right. I think back to when I was, even like a first year university student and stepping foot in a gym for the first time in my life. I was so intimidated by the weight room simply because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to set up anything. I didn't know what any of the equipment was for. I could hop on and do a little bit of a circuit, but I did not have the knowledge to understand what I needed, why I needed it, and what would actually serve me in the long term. And so I just didn't do it because it was way too intimidating. Now I can step in a gym and I can even just, even if I don't have any structured workout in front of me, I can put something together that is very effective in my head because I understand the principles and I understand how to put together a workout and how it's structured and why it matters and what muscle groups I need to work on based on my own impairments and my own weaknesses. So that is a big piece of it. There is so much text in the workout programs that I offer. It's not just when you open up a workout in the app that you see the exercises. You will get a note on pretty much every exercise that you do that explains what we're targeting, maybe some cues to think about or different, tips in terms of form or setup, as well as connecting it back to why it matters to riding. For example, just pulling one up randomly here. In this workout that I'm looking at, there is a 45-degree side flexion. So in what we call a Roman chair, where your feet are strapped in and your hips are supported on a pad and the angle of the chair is 45 degrees. So you're bending sideways and coming back up. One, there's a video of me showing you how to do it and I talk through it. But two, the note that will pop up the first time that exercise comes up to you tells you that it's targeting the lateral stabilizers and the obliques. Also lets you know that it's a very good idea to start with body weight if you've never done it before, because sometimes this one can have a little bit more muscle soreness than the average new exercise. And then I break it down to the mechanics. So I write here, we often struggle as equestrians with one hip hiked or one shoulder dropped or just general asymmetry without knowing why. But often, some form of lateral asymmetry can be a contributor, and working on the obliques and the lateral stabilizers individually can help level out our seat. And that's basically every exercise in there. You will always get this little tidbit connecting it back to riding so that it's not just understanding what the exercise is and being kind of, here's the instructions, do the exercise. It is, okay, this is why it matters. This is why it's been programmed here. And that applies to the programs as a whole. So I talk about the different principles. I talk about the periodization across the different seasons, which if you want, go back to a previous episode. You can listen to what periodization is and why does it matter. All of that is sprinkled through all of the workout programs so that it's not just you following these workouts blindly. It's you developing an understanding and a base of these basic strength and conditioning principles, which you can then carry forward long term, even when you leave this program. So that's empowerment through education. I should say, on top of that, there's also like a very large library of resources within the app as well on rider biomechanics, on strength and conditioning principles, on setups, different lifts, technique, rehab principles if you're dealing with an injury, all of it. There is always an explanation as to why you're doing something so that you're not just doing it without understanding that reasoning. Anyway, number 2. So this is a really big one, and you've heard me beating this drum many, many, many times probably, and that is just the athlete's identity. That is, riders, we are not passengers, right? We are not just pilots. We are partners. We are athletes, and we deserve training systems that reflect that strength and that skill and that resilience that this role demands. Your horse is showing up every single day, whether they agree to or not, to be your partner, to support you, to take you through your lessons, to take you to shows. Do they not deserve the same from us? There's a little quote I often use, and it is paraphrased from something Maeve Sheridan from Activate Your Seat said once. And I am going to apologize because I can't remember what her original quote was, but the way that I paraphrase it is just, your horse is not your gym, right? They deserve more than to be your instrument for getting fit. They deserve for you to show up already strong, already mobile, already stable, already aware, already with the aerobic endurance to handle whatever you're asking of them. So they are just there to be your partner, and that when you get in the saddle, it is only about their training and it is only about your skill. And that means treating and training ourselves like athletes too. When we get an injury, going and seeking appropriate care, rehabbing it, testing ourselves to make sure that we are ready for return to sport. It means understanding basic strength and conditioning principles. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to go and get a degree in this shit, but you should understand basic principles like progressive overload, like specific adaptation to imposed demands. And maybe we'll dive into these ones a little bit more later on, like graded exposure in a rehab sense and in a progressive overload sense as well. You should understand how these principles work. You should understand how tissues adapt and the timelines that it takes to build muscle, to build strength, to build aerobic capacity, because then you can apply those principles not only to your own training, but to your horse's training. Because guess what? We're not that physiologically different than a horse. I mean, a horse is actually a much more impressive athlete than a human overall. But from just a physiological standpoint, at the micro level, we're not that different. Our muscle adapts the same. Our tendons adapt pretty well the same. Our aerobic systems adapt pretty well the same, even though the horse's is way more impressive than ours. So that is the athlete's identity. And that is a big piece in the way that I frame the language that I use in my messaging through these different platforms and in the training app, the training system itself. Number 3 is just commitment that actually respects our capacity, because progress does matter, right? We want to have a commitment to the things that we tell ourselves we're going to do. If we say, I'm going to show up to ride 3 days a week, we should uphold that. If we say, I'm going to commit to this gym program, we should uphold that. But at the same time, it also has to be sustainable, because I don't know about you, equestrians in general, we have this little habit of kind of going boom or bust a lot of the time. We go all or nothing. And, we go super hard out of the gate. Say we're going to the gym 4 times a week, do it for a week and a half. Something happens, you fall off, and then you haven't gone for 6 weeks. Say you're going to ride 4 times a week, and then your horse loses a shoe and they're lame for a couple of days, and you fall off that wagon, and now you're back to just your weekly lesson. So the intention here is that we should have that structure. And we should have that commitment and accountability to ourselves, but we should also accept the reality of what life is. Consistency is really the foundation of everything here, and we need a system that reflects that. So we need flexibility within that commitment to make it work around real life. So for example, within the programs, like one of the features of the app itself, it's hosted on this third-party platform called Everfit, is that you can move workouts around wherever you need them to be. So if there is sort of a base 3 workouts a week, you can shuffle those to have 2 on the weekend and 1 on a Wednesday. You can shuffle those to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can shuffle those to be 3 back to back. You can do 2 workouts and shuffle 1 to the next week. You can do that a few weeks in a row. Like you can take a 16-week program that's meant to be 3 workouts a week, make it 2 workouts a week, and now it's a 24-week program. And that's okay, right? The main thing is that you are showing up week to week to week. It doesn't matter if 1 week you get 1 workout, 1 week you get 4 workouts, the next week you get 2 workouts, and the next week you have the flu and you don't get any workouts. Because in 10 years, no one's going to give a shit about the 2 weeks a year that you missed because of a flu, because your parent needed caretaking, because your kid got sick, because your horse went lame. No one's going to care about that. What they are going to care about is the 500 plus other weeks that you still showed up. No one cares that you went 3 weeks in a row doing 4 workouts a week and then didn't work out again for the rest of the year. That doesn't actually build sustainability, and that doesn't build over time. What that does is just lead to early burnout and then falling off for the extended period of time until something else kicks you in the butt and tells you that you need to take action again. So that is why there is a lot of messaging in the training system that is meant to promote that flexibility while also promoting that commitment to ourselves. The other thing I think, and this is something that I think of when I'm doing my own training, is just the financial investment of it too. So I pay a coach. I have a coach that I invest in both time, financially, otherwise. And that is one piece that holds me accountable as well, because I know if I don't take advantage of the pieces that I'm paying for, the resources, the workouts that he's building for me, that's also just, a bit of a waste of money. And so that is another piece that holds me accountable as well. And it doesn't mean that I have to show up perfectly all the time. If he schedules 4 workouts a week for me and I miss one of them every couple weeks, that's okay, because that's just real life, right? We're being a little bit optimistic. but also at the same time, accepting the realities of life. I always say that when you're setting a goal for, the number of workouts that you want a week, the number of times that you want to ride a week, whatever your goal or the habit that you want to build is, start with whatever you feel like you can reasonably commit to on your worst week. And that is a week where the work deadlines are due, you're sick, the kids are sick, vacations coming up that you've got to prepare for. Like everything is hitting the fan all at once. What is the most you can commit to on that week? And start with that as your goal, because that way we can actually win. That way we can actually be successful with it. And then we can build from there once we have success. But if you start with what is, potentially a better goal for your best week, and then you only hit it 1/3 of the time because no one has their best week all the time, then you start to get disheartened. Then you start to feel guilty, and then you start to fall off because of that. So commitment, that also respects your capacity. Make the commitment to yourself to show up and put the effort in, but be realistic about what your life is and what you can realistically do at any one point. That's number 3. Number 4 is just autonomy with structure. So structured autonomy. And that is, again, along those similar lines. The system itself is incredibly flexible, and it's intended to be. You can pause programs. You can shuffle workouts around. You can add on-demand rehab workouts or cardio workouts if you need to. You can do all of that within the app so that it is flexible, but it's not up to you to decide what workout you're going to do at what point. You don't have to do that YouTube search and then scroll through and see if you can find something that you like. You don't have to collect a random bunch of saved TikToks with different exercises and then somehow try to assemble that into a workout. The intention here is to make it easy for you to lower that activation energy because you don't have to decide anything. The workout is there. The structure is there. The program is progressive. It is evidence-based. You just have to follow along. But at the same time, you can shift things around. You can pause. You can step back. You can take a break as you need based on what is going on in your life, right? That's also why there's rehab programs in there. So that, if you flare up your low back, you can pause your regular workout program and then just do the on-demand rehab, work through the levels of that to get your back feeling better and back to a place where you can tolerate your workouts again, and then just pick up where you left off. Or scroll back a week if you're sick and you missed a bunch of stuff. Or scroll ahead a week if you're starting, maybe the entry-level green program, which is kind of the 6-month on-ramp program, and you find that the first, week is too easy. You can scroll ahead to month 2, month 3, month 4, where things start to pick up a little bit and make it suit your level. So it takes away all of that decision making. It takes away all that thinking. It takes away all that wondering of, okay, is this the right exercise for me? Is it not? Do I have enough, legs versus arms in here? Am I covering all of my major muscle groups? Am I getting everything that I need as an individual? That decision making isn't up to you. So we offer all that structure, but then you still have the flexibility to make it work within your life. So that is a big piece of it. Number 5 is really the heart of me being an evidence-based professional as a physiotherapist. And that is grounding everything that is in that system, everything that is in the app, everything that I put out on the social media in evidence as best I can. I am human too. I'm going to get things wrong. I'm going to misinterpret things. I'm going to put out incorrect information or information that is later not going to be correct as new literature or as new evidence comes to light. But at the same time, I am doing my best to stay on top of the evidence, to give you what is there in the best available science and refined through my clinical and coaching experience. It's not just what's pretty, what's attractive, what is, shock value and going to get you to buy in because you're like, that's cool. I've never seen that before. It is the basics, right? It is structured in, number 1, what you need as a human being just to be fit and, have health and longevity and make it through life. Number 2, what you need as a general equestrian to be successful and sit in the saddle and be able to ride your horse comfortably. Number 3, what you need for your own discipline, what the demands of your riding level are, and building up to that. Number 4, what you need to deal with any impairments or restrictions. And number 5, what rehab needs you have. So it's built foundationally on your human needs first, your rider needs second, your individual needs third, and it's biased away from those human needs towards more rider needs. But that doesn't mean that the human needs, the general needs, the things that are going to keep you healthy long-term just as a person aren't in there. The way that we progress things, the intensity that I describe and that I tell you to work at, the aerobic conditioning, All of this stuff is grounded in my knowledge as a physiotherapist, as someone who has consumed a lot of literature in the strength and conditioning realm, as someone who has done a lot of reading and research and has done many physiology courses and has done a lot of strength and conditioning work on their own, who reads all the research papers on these nitty-gritty little training program techniques so that you don't have to, and integrates that all into what you guys actually need as athletes. That is the goal here. It is to make sure that I'm not just giving you fluff. I am giving you something that is actually going to work, that is founded in scientific evidence. And number 6 and 7, they're kind of coming together, but number 6 is that lifelong development, and number 7 is paying it forward, right? The big thing about anyone who utilizes with this training system, anyone who goes through it, is that I don't want you to feel like you're married to this program, this system, this app for the rest of your life. I don't want you to feel like you're married to me. Like if you're working, with me one-to-one even, I say this to my physio clients all the time. I don't want you have to be married to physio for the rest of your life. I want you to be equipped with the foundational principles, the understanding, the knowledge, the resources, the treatment techniques, all of it to manage your own issues, to manage your own training if that's something that you want to do. And if it's not, to recognize what good quality rehab, good quality training, good quality principles look like so that you can access them. It's not just about a 6-week boot camp or an 8-week challenge or 75 hard that's focused on those short-term gains or like quick fix ideas. It's about building that strength, awareness, and habits that are going to hold up through across many decades so that, you can sign up for that 100 pace when you're 75 and you can feel confident doing it. You can get up from the ground after fetching a lost shoe when you're 85 because you have the strength and the bone density to do that. That you can get yourself off the toilet independently at 95 and you can still be living on your own and making your own meals, right? We can't handle everything health-wise that happens in our lives. So much of it is down to environment, genetics, social factors, so many things that are out of our control. But this is one thing that we can handle. And fitness and strength and building physical resilience is not something that is a one-off. It is not something that you do for 6 weeks out of the year and say, okay, that's my yearly allotment. It is something that you do consistently for the rest of your life. Because unfortunately, as biological beings, the use it or lose it principle is literally what governs us. Your body does not want to keep muscle around that you are not using. That is very metabolically expensive. Your body does not keep bone density that you're not using because, again, very metabolically expensive. That mineral could be used elsewhere. So building this stuff up and then convincing our body that we need to keep it is what keeps us resilient and what keeps us independent long term. And that is a big piece of what I'm trying to create here. And the last piece is paying it forward. Again, reflecting on, my upbringing, my initial education through Pony Club, through young eventing levels with my coach. And again, this is like absolutely no shade to my coach. She's an amazing person and was an amazing coach. But there was this lacking in terms of treating myself like an athlete, having these understandings of training principles, having an understanding of how to actually improve my own seat and my own lower leg and my own endurance capacity. That wasn't really talked about. It was just riding more. And so the idea here is that if we equip all kinds of equestrians across the spectrum with this knowledge, with this athletic identity, with this evidence, with this capacity for lifelong development, that's going to get passed down. And we're going to build a smarter, stronger equestrian culture across the board where we are empowering that next generation of riders and coaches to be better than we are. So that's it. That's the 7 principles that I'm trying to build this training system off of. It is empowerment through education. It is the athletic identity. It is commitment that actually respects our capacity. It is structured autonomy. It is building everything around the best available evidence. It is that lifelong development, and it is paying it forward. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging in there, guys. I hope you appreciated this kind of deeper dive into the meaning and the why behind I'm doing things and what I'm building. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you have any comments, please drop them. I would happily hear from you and I would love to engage. And again, just considering that this is a newer podcast, I would be so appreciative if you could rate and review, drop some stars. 5 would be lovely. And with that, I will see you on the next one.